The way of the cross. This scriptural way of the cross has been crafted predominantly using the Gospel of Mark. Mark invites us to listen attentively to Jesus, the beloved Son of God. This way of the cross features the work of the late Melbourne sculptor, Leopoldine Mimovic, whose beautiful carved Stations of the Cross reside in the Our Lady of Good Counsel Church in Deep Dean. In the Gospel of Mark, Jesus' final words are from Psalm 22, Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani, familiar words that would have been treasured by Jesus as a faithful Jew. Verses from the psalm are included in each station as a connecting prayer point and for further reflection. As you journey with this way of the cross, may this ancient form of prayer for all times and for all seasons invite and enable you to reflect, renew your faith, and recommit your life to Jesus.
And as they were eating, he took some bread, and when he had said the blessing, he broke it and gave it to them. "Take it," he said, "this is my body." Then he took a cup, and when he had returned thanks, he gave it to them, and all drank from it. Jesus, you take, bless, break, give. Are you able to savor this last meal? We are hungry and thirsty for you. You nourish us, giving of yourself so that all might eat and drink.
They came to a small estate called Gethsemane, and Jesus said to his disciples, "Stay here while I pray." Then he took Peter and James and John with him, and a sudden fear came over him and great distress. And he said to them, "My soul is sorrowful to the point of death. Wait here and keep awake." And going on a little further, he threw himself on the ground and prayed that, if it were possible, this hour might pass him by. "Abba, Father," he said, "everything is possible for you. Take this cup away from me, but let it be as you, not I, would have it." He came back and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Had you not the strength to keep awake 1 hour? You should be awake and praying, not to be put to the test. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Jesus, you experience distress, anguish, and grief. You invite your friends to be with you in this hour of great need. Your companions are willing but weak. How do you feel in this moment of abandonment? We all question suffering. Your prayer teaches us to lay bare our deepest desires and needs before our loving God.
They led Jesus off to the high priest, and all the chief priests and the elders and the scribes assembled there. Some stood up and submitted this false evidence against him. We heard him say, "I'm going to destroy this temple made by human hands, and in 3 days build another, not made by human hands." But even on this point, their evidence was conflicting. The high priest then stood up before the whole assembly and put this question to Jesus: "Have you no answer to that? What is this evidence these men are bringing against you?" But he was silent and made no answer at all. The high priest put a second question to him. "Are you the Christ?" he said, "the Son of the Blessed One?" "I am," said Jesus, "and you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the power and coming with the clouds of heaven." The high priest tore his robes. "What need of witnesses have we now?" he said. "You heard the blasphemy. What is your finding?" And they all gave their verdict. He deserved to die. Jesus, your mission of love and freedom is met by an assembly of cultural and religious power. Does the dark of this night move you to despair? Your words are twisted. Your honesty is met with condemnation and ridicule, and provokes retribution. We too long for answers. Open our minds and hearts to receive your words of truth.
They had Jesus bound and took him away and handed him over to Pilate. Pilate questioned him, "Are you the King of the Jews?" "It is you who say it," he answered. When the crowd went up and began to ask Pilate the customary favour, Pilate answered them, "Do you want me to release for you the King of the Jews?" For he realised it was out of jealousy that the chief priests had handed Jesus over. The chief priests, however, had incited the crowd to demand that he should release Barabbas for them instead. Then Pilate spoke again. "But in that case," he said to them, "what am I to do with the man you call King of the Jews?" They shouted back, "Crucify him!" So Pilate, anxious to placate the crowd, released Barabbas for them, and having ordered Jesus to be scourged, handed him over to be crucified. Jesus, you always act in freedom, but now you are bound. Does the rope chafe? Although Pilate realises the priest's jealousy, he acts to satisfy the crowd, having you flogged and handed over to be crucified. While we thirst for justice, fill us with your mercy and compassion.
The soldiers led him away to the inner part of the palace, that is, the praetorium, and called the whole cohort together. They dressed him up in purple, twisted some thorns into a crown, and put it on him. And they began saluting him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They struck his head with a reed and spat on him, and they went down on their knees to do him homage. And when they'd finished making fun of him, they took off the purple and dressed him in his own clothes. Jesus, your kingly identity is brutally warped by hands and voices distorted by their own pain and fear. You become an object of humiliation and shame, cruelty and scorn. You willingly take this on for us. Your heart breaks for those in pain. Soften our mouths and hands to be instruments of comfort to others.
They led him out to crucify him. Jesus, you embrace your cross and are led to your death. How are your torn shoulders and back able to bear the weight of your cross? We choose to follow you every day, even along this difficult path. Strengthen us to carry the weight of the crosses we are called to hold.
They enlisted a passer-by, Simon of Cyrene, father of Alexander and Rufus, who was coming in from the country to carry his cross. Jesus, soldiers force Simon, a visitor to the city, to assist you. He is compelled to take a path not of his choosing, to shoulder a burden for someone unknown to him. Jesus, do you speak with him? Each of us has a story. Help us to find your face in all the strangers we meet and in the unexpected situations we find ourselves in.
There were some women watching from a distance. Among them were Mary of Magdala, Mary, who was the mother of James the Younger and Josette, and Salome. These used to follow him and look after him when he was in Galilee. And there were many other women there who had come up to Jerusalem with him. Jesus, you have many followers, but not all of them stay the course. Mary Magdalene, Mary and Salome are among the women who remain to accompany you on this part of your way, to the very end. Is their faithfulness a comfort to you? We do not want to journey alone. Help us to remain with you, even in pain and suffering, and to welcome those who would accompany us.
They brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. They offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he refused it. Then they crucified him and shared out his clothing, casting lots to decide what each should get. Jesus, you arrive at the place of your death. Are you relieved or horrified? Choosing not to dull your pain, you are stripped of your final possessions. We resist our own nakedness and suffering. Clothe us in your love and transform our pain.
It was the third hour when they crucified him. The inscription giving the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." And they crucified 2 robbers with him, one on his right and one on his left. Jesus, your very identity becomes your indictment. You are not alone. Others are crucified with you. Even in these moments, you find a way to reach out, your presence always a blessing to those willing to receive. Grace our lives so that in the most unlikely of places, we too may be your blessing to others.
Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother and his mother's sister, Mary the wife of Clopas and Mary of Magdala. Seeing his mother and the disciple he loved standing near her, Jesus said to his mother, "Woman, this is your son." Then to the disciple he said, "This is your mother." And from that moment the disciple made a place for her in his home. Jesus, you see your mother, brother, sister. They are held in your gaze. You endow us with family, so we never need to journey alone. Even as you draw near to death, your mission to show us our identity as beloved sons and daughters, the family of God, is revealed once more. We long to be seen, held, and known. Embrace us always.
When the 6th hour came, there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour. And at the 9th hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you deserted me?" But Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last. And the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The centurion who was standing in front of him had seen how he had died, and he said, "In truth, this man was a son of God." Jesus, for hours you struggle for breath. Exposed and vulnerable, you call out to God in the raw, anguished words of the psalmist. How do you feel God's presence before you take your last breath? Words sometimes fail us. Write the words of Scripture on our hearts so that we may know God always hears our cries and, recognizing us as beloved children, never abandons us.
It was now evening, and since it was preparation day, that is, the vigil of the Sabbath, there came Joseph of Arimathea, a prominent member of the council, who himself lived in hope of seeing the kingdom of God, and he boldly went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Pilate granted the corpse to Joseph, but bought a shroud, took Jesus down from the cross, wrapped him in the shroud, and laid him in a tomb which had been hewn out of rock. He then rolled a stone against the entrance to the tomb. Mary of Magdala and Mary, the mother of Joseph, were watching and took note of where he was laid. Jesus, your disciple Joseph, comes and claims you. Swaddling your broken body, and laying it in the tomb. Was Joseph present when the council condemned you? The women witness your resting place, sealed with a rock. We witness many things. Embolden us to be where we are needed, to act when the time is right.
When the Sabbath was over, Mary of Magdala, Mary the mother of James, and Salome bought spices with which to go and anoint him. And very early in the morning, on the first day of the week, they went to the tomb, just as the sun was rising. But when they looked, they could see that the stone, which was very big, had already been rolled back. On entering the tomb, they saw a young man in a white robe seated on the right-hand side, and they were struck with amazement. But he said to them, "There is no need for alarm. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See, here is the place where they laid him. But you must go and tell his disciples and Peter, he is going before you to Galilee. It is there you will see him, just as he told you." Jesus, early in the morning, at the dawn of the new week, your women disciples come to honour and tend to your body. They encounter a messenger who shares that you are risen. Imprint on us the pattern of your life, so that we will live and die and rise to new life in you. Inflame our hearts so that all those heavy stones, fear, selfishness, apathy, hopelessness, may be rolled away and we can fulfill our mission as disciples sent by you.